And how about Wells Fargo, one of the country's largest banks? According to Think Progress, excuse me, they designed a specific formal process within their corporate structure to falsify paperwork when the bank's foreclosure efforts were impeded by missing documents. They couldn't really prove that they were the primary mortgage holder. This is according to documents filed in a New York court earlier this week. According to the filing, Wells Fargo created a manual for its foreclosure attorneys that included instructions on, quote, a procedure for processing mortgage notes without endorsements and obtaining endorsements and allonges. What the hell's an allonge? Those bits of jargon refer to legal documents. When the bank was attempting to foreclose on a homeowner but lacked the documents it needed to prove to a judge that the action was proper, the manual that is part of this lawsuit showed its employees, the employees of Wells Fargo, how to cheat on the paperwork to fill the hole in the bank's case so the bank could go ahead and proceed with the theft of property. Now, that's what it is. It's theft. Most mortgages are theft anyway. When you stop and consider, when you buy a $300,000 home, and let's say you put 20% down, you put $60,000 down, you have a $240,000 mortgage, you will pay that lending institution probably close to $700,000 for your $240,000 mortgage, right? So it's theft any way you look at it. But this is out and out theft. According to Think Progress, if the allegation is true, that would mean that the largest mortgage servicing company in the country was instructing attorneys, officers of the court, to make up signed legal documents. According to Think Progress, foreclosure law sets strict rules around such documents, most of which must be completed within 3 months from when a deal to transfer a mortgage between financial firms is completed. But the filing this week in New York on Tuesday says that Wells Fargo violated those rules not just on an informal case-by-case basis, but through a specific, documented, broadly applicable procedure. Now, that would help explain what homeowners attorneys call ta-da foreclosures, where a homeowner challenges a foreclosure on the grounds that the documents are missing, only to have those exact pieces of paper show up suddenly as if by magic. Ta-da! Wells Fargo created them. Wells Fargo denies that it ever, God forbid, ever improperly endorsed mortgage paperwork. and told the Washington Post, I guess, that it's foreclosure, quote from Wells Fargo, our foreclosure processes today and back in 2012. What about 2011 and 10 and 9 and 8? And 2012 are legal and appropriate, end quote. But the Post obtained a copy of the attorney's manual referenced in the court filings. And the Post writes that this manual, quote, appears to provide step-by-step instructions on how to proceed when documents required for a given foreclosure are blank or missing. One expert, the Washington Post consulted, called the manual, quote, an explosive document, end quote. Now, throughout the years-long foreclosure crisis that followed the housing market collapse engineered by these vampires and bloodsuckers on Wall Street, homeowner advocates and bank watchdogs have warned that banks were taking families' homes, just taking them. They don't get. This is the beauty, the magic of capitalism. Banks don't give a goddamn. What? If someone lives there, throw them out. They were taking families' homes using flawed, incomplete, and non-existent documents. Now, how does somebody fight back? You know, you receive a notice of eviction or a notice of foreclosure, and first of all, you realize you're 7 payments behind. How do you fight back? How do you say, look, I lost my job. My partner's been sick. My kid is in the hospital. Look, I want to pay this off. Work with me. Get out of my house, the bank would say. Falsified documents were at the core of the so-called robo-signing scandal. Remember that? That led to an ineffective and often exaggerated settlement with 5 large mortgage servicers, including Wells Fargo. More than $1.5 trillion worth of mortgage-backed securities are based on forged and otherwise invalid documents. Millions of other foreclosures are believed to have been based on incomplete documentation, thanks in large part to the craze for packaging loans up and selling them off to other firms during the pre-crisis housing finance bubble. Now, you know, there's another bubble that is developing that I was reading about in the Times business section the other day. And here's the new bubble. With so many people losing their houses to foreclosure, all of a sudden they started noticing in Arizona and California and a few other states that were very hard hit that these foreclosed homes, all of a sudden they were being bought up, and people were moving in. It was like, what is this? Finally, has this wave broken? Well, it turns out that the homes were being bought up by investment. I say criminal, but let's use the word investment companies. And they were buying up literally hundreds of thousands of homes across the country and then packaging the ownership of those homes and selling them off to investors based on an average of $1,300 a month. I believe that was the figure I saw in rental. So in rental income. So these new owners, these whatever you want to call them, investors, they'll buy, say, 1,000 homes, say 100 homes, and then they'll take the mortgages on those homes or the ownership on those homes, and they'll sell them off to investors, and then people move in. Now, if the original investors who put this scam together, if they can't meet the payments, because they're not all paying cash, if they can't meet the payments, and the investors are left holding the paper like they did on the home ownership scam, what happens to the people who have been paying their rent every single month? They get evicted. They get evicted because the house will be foreclosed on again. Now, you know, I've had people call this program before and say, you know, what's your problem with capitalism? Capitalism is wonderful. Capitalism is great. You know, and I just wonder if these people in their lifetime, most of those people are in their 30s or 40s, they're usually males. They've grown up on Limbaugh and Bill O'Reilly and Glenn Beck. They can no more use their brains to think than I can use my hand to fly. And you know, their comments are always the same. If you don't like capitalism, why don't you leave the country? Capitalism is what got you where you are, Malloy. And I just laughed my ass off about that one. But I don't quite understand why people are so willing to defend a system that eventually will eat them alive, and their children, and their spouse, and their mama, and everybody else in their family given a chance. I don't get that. If those people wind up unemployed, the ones that are defending capitalism, because the manufacturer or the company or the agency or whatever the hell it is for whom they work decides to throw them out, to kick them to the curb, they have no union to protect them. They have nothing, essentially, to protect them. The Republicans that they think are so great are chopping their unemployment comp to pieces. They probably live in a state where Medicaid expansion was turned down by the Republican governor and legislature. What do these people think when they call me and tell me or send me an email and say, you know, you don't understand, I don't understand that capitalism is this wonderful, glorious system that raises all the boats? Jesus, God.